Hello, everyone, and welcome to Late Night Show with your host, ChiChi Styles. Thank you so much again, all the viewers who are going to join me for season 3 of hanging out with me. On the season, we're talking about flick reps and all the amazing films that we've got from all over the world. And today we're sitting with wonderful Madison, who made a film called Children of Disease. And Madison's film is so special just because anything that has to do with kids is definitely very, very vital for our future, because without understanding what children are dealing with, we actually don't even know how we're going to express what we need for the future and how to better our time. And from the tagline, you can see Madison talked more about how these children deal with parents who are sick, who are hospitalized, and how they have to cope. It was such a deep documentary. Welcome, Madison, and thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story with the world through filmmaking. We were very honored to select you. Please introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are, what you do, and then we'll go into talking about your documentary.
Great. So I'm Madison VanDerLinde. I'm an independent filmmaker in Southern California. I own my own production company, so it's called VanDerLinde Productions, LLC. This is my first feature-length film, Children of Disease, and it's a documentary about kids who grow up with chronically ill parents, and I made it because that's how I grew up. So that kind of started my film career. I made some shorts before I made this film, but this was my first big venture, the first thing I really felt passionate about. So that's who I am, and that's what I've done so far.
And it's so impressive. I looked at the website, childrenofdisease.com, and over so many people have supported. You guys have raised over about $50,000 so far. So you're not only just making a film that touches you in a place that's important, but you're also learning how filmmaking works, where the crowd is always your biggest support, because now a bunch of people are vested in it and they're looking forward to the release date. It's good to have a film where people are looking at when is it going to finish, rather than doing it and then there's a whole team saying, well, your marketing budget is, we've got to get people to see it. Doing it the other way around, where you do the crowdfunding, is so cool because so many people are vested in it early, and that's a big congratulations to you and your team. So first, let's talk about you telling the story from your point of view. When did you know this was something you had to share with the world, that someone in your family member was sick and now it was going to be public news? Because now you know everyone's going to ask you, why are you making this film? Who's sick in your family? That kind of thing. When did you know that this was important to do for yourself and for your family?
Yeah, when I was 18, I moved away from home. I moved across the country to start college. And I had always thought I wasn't impacted by how my parents were sick when I was young. My dad was diagnosed with cancer when I was 13, and then my mom was diagnosed with 2 different cancers the next year when I was 14. So it was a lot, but I never thought anything of it. I just kind of kept my head down and kept moving and pretended like everything was fine, to the point where I convinced myself that everything was fine. And then when I moved away, all that kind of came crashing down around me. When you're living alone and you're taking care of yourself for the first time, you don't have your parents there. It's kind of hard to hide those things even from yourself. So I realized that I didn't have a lot of motivation for school. I didn't feel like there was a point. I felt like at any moment my dad could go back into the hospital or die, or something could happen with my mom and she could have a resurgence of her cancer. I even felt like maybe I could get diagnosed with something tomorrow and it wouldn't even matter. So I just was so depressed and scared, honestly. The fear was just crippling. I couldn't focus in class. I was having a really hard time socializing. Like, I didn't want to talk to anyone. I would just go to class and go home, go to class and go home. And I realized that it was really all centered around my dad's ongoing cancer and the way I felt like it wasn't going to end well. So I realized I need help. I need help with this. So I started trying to find resources. I looked for books. I looked for support groups. I looked for therapists. I was really just trying to find anything. And I couldn't find much at all. I found one organization in the entire country that helps people, and they're in Texas, so they couldn't help me. So there was really no help for me. And that's when I realized I can't be the only kid who grew up like this. I can't be the only young adult who has sick parents. So I immediately started looking for families that also wanted to share their stories. And from there, it just evolved into a full feature length film. And it became a really beautiful, healing thing that connected me with people who are like me and people who are like my parents. So, yeah, that's where the idea came from. And that's how it kind of blossomed into what it is today.
Awesome. Wow. Wow. I have to ask you this question next. How did your family feel about coming out and discussing this so private thing? Because a lot of people, when someone's sick, they kind of keep it in the family. How do they feel about that?
Definitely. It was definitely something I thought about for a really long time. I was like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to share all this personal information? And I did talk to my family about it when I was trying to decide to move forward with this. And you know, it mostly relied on my dad because he was the one who stayed sick. My mom, luckily, very quickly, her cancer was back in a stable state. She doesn't have cancer anymore.
Right.
But my dad continued to be sick. So I really wanted to make sure that he was okay with it. And he was always endlessly supportive of me. So immediately he was like, yeah, what do you need from me? I'll sit down. I'll tell you anything you want me to tell you. And my mom was the same way. My mom immediately wanted to support me. She agreed that there should have been support for us as a family and for me and my sister as the kids going through it. So my family was really supportive. And my sister, too, she had no problem sitting down in front of the camera and talking about this stuff. So luckily, I had a very willing family. They saw the value in getting this story out there. They saw that it was an issue that needed to be talked about. So they were happy to share their personal experiences, even though it was pretty difficult.
I'm sure there were a lot of tears during
Yeah,
the shooting
a
time.
lot,
So you had to pause and
definitely.
get the tissue. Your mom says so proud of her. Is that well? There's a Gail Medler
Oh,
Williams
that's my aunt.
Ladon. That's your aunt. Okay, so proud of her. Thank you so much for your comment, Gail. And thank you for everyone that's we're getting tons of likes and folks are watching online. I'm going to go ahead and read the tagline of the film. And this film will be available this week on Chi TV, guys. You get to see it if you missed it in the festival circuit. It got selected in our honorable mention. Again, we had 183 films and we selected only 34 honorable mentions, where I believe only 6 or 7. So hers came on the top for us that needed to be discussed because, again, like she said, these topics are not talked about. Like there was no support group. And instead of her waiting for someone to show up, she decided to create a support group by making a film. This feature-length documentary tells the story of healthy children who grew up with chronically ill parents. So during your research on making this film, what did you find about other families that were similar to you? What were some of the exciting things that you discovered during the season when you had to shoot these folks?
Yeah, it was really interesting, honestly. A lot of similarities between the families and between the children. I spoke to, I think, about 6 different sets of parents, single parents and parents who are still together, parents who are divorced. I talked to kids of different ages. I talked to young kids who are like 5, 6, 7. I talked to kids who are now 30 and grew up with sick parents. And I talked to teenagers. So I talked to all different kinds of people that are in a similar situation to mine where their parents are sick from a young age. And I found a lot of the time that usually the kids tend to either go the route I did as a kid and kind of shut down and pretend they're fine and not feel their emotions about it. Or they tend to do more what my older sister did, which is get really, really anxious, need to have all the answers all the time, Google stuff they probably shouldn't be Googling. So it seems like those 2 personality types, kids tend to either kind of protect themselves with anxiety or protect themselves by pretending that nothing's happening. I saw a lot across the board that kids have physical symptoms when their parent is sick. Kids get stomach aches when their parent goes into the hospital, or they get really bad chronic headaches and they feel like they can't stay in school the whole day because they're in so much pain that they can't focus. And a lot of the time, these kids, something that makes this so complex is that it's your parent that's sick and you're young. So you don't want to put more burden on your parent when they're already dealing with something so difficult like
Yeah.
cancer or some other chronic illness. So the kids always try to make the parent's life easier. I've seen that across the board, whether the kid's 5, 15, 35, they're trying to make their parents have as little trouble as possible because they know that they're already going through a lot. But that's really difficult because when you're a kid, you need your parents.
Yeah.
That's the point of having family, you know, so they can support you and look after you. So something I saw a lot was kids saying, you know, we want to help our mom, we want to help clean, we want to help cook, we try to be quiet, we try not to cause problems. Um, you know, so I, you know, like even older kids, you know, I try to help her financially, I try to help her pay her bills, I try to help her make sure she's on top of everything. So I think it's a lot of something I saw a lot also was that switch of the parent-child role. You know, kids grow up really fast when there's an adult in their life that's sick, especially if that adult is a caregiver.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of similarities in that way.
Wow. Um, how do you think your film helped these children realize and families realize the position switch, the I can imagine, I want to be on your set, right? And a kid is actually saying, well, sometimes I feel sick, but I can't tell mom because if I tell mom, mom have to worry about me.
Yeah.
And mom is listening to that. Do you think it gave everyone a little bit of freedom of understanding what both sides were dealing with and exposure of being appreciative of one another while you were filming the story? Do you think the purpose, because the end result is great for us to see it. Yeah, you shot it, you edited it, but we're talking about what people were feeling and the actual emotion and the actual effect of having this families understand what they're dealing with when a sick parent and a child. Do you think that, do you see a lot of reaction and a little bit more understanding on both sides for these families while you were shooting?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Um, it was interesting to see how, like you said, you know, I'm interviewing these kids, and of course, their mom is right there or their dad is right there.
Right.
So I think a lot got said that doesn't normally get said just because there's no space for it.
Yeah.
Um, so it really opened up that place to be able to say everything that you felt that you've maybe felt guilty for feeling,
Yeah.
either as the parent or as the kid. Um, so it really did open that channel of communication. So I definitely think that happened. I think it helped kids to feel like they could say how they're feeling. And I think it helped parents to understand what their kids feeling, because I think a lot of the time, you know, parents can feel, you know, there's so much pressure on a parent to do a perfect job raising your kid. You know, you don't want to mess anything up. And then you add illness on top of that, and it gets even harder to raise your child. So I think it can be, I think it's important to talk about how I wanted to make this film to empower parents to feel like they know they're in the driver's seat. You know, they can help their kid and themselves and battle their illness. They don't have to feel so lost when it comes to how to help their kid. So I think that this kind of helped parents to realize that their kids are impacted by this, because even some families that I did meet and film with, they knew that their kids were going through something difficult. That's why they agreed to share their story with me. But really hearing their kids say, I think about this all day at school. I come home from school and I don't want to go see friends because it's just exhausting to me. Um, you know, that's really eye-opening to hear that from your kid directly. So I think it helped parents and kids to connect with each other. At least I hope it did. Um, and I think in the moment it might have been a little difficult for some of those parents and the kids to hear all that information so freely and openly and honestly. But I think in the long run, it did open that channel of communication, like you said.
Oh, that is so awesome. That's what filmmaking is about. Kudos to
Yeah.
you and to your team and to your family for supporting you through it. So now let's go into the filmmaking part. How long did the process take from when you actually developed the script to actually shooting, finding the family? Let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go into also editing, music, and all the other things. So let's start with that. Writing it, scripting it, picking the family, selecting them. Did you have to do auditions? Let's talk a little bit about how that process was for you.
Yeah, it was a really long process. I started this film, I got the idea for this film when I was 18, and now I'm 24. So
Woo!
it's been a long time. I've, I've been actually working on it though for about 4 years.
Okay.
When I was 20 is really when I started to look for families, go film with people, travel across the country and meet these people. But yeah, so it was a long process. I did have some trouble finding people who are willing to share their story at first. Um, I did find one family immediately, the Merricks, through Evelyn Merrick, who has been amazing. She actually has what my dad had. She has multiple myeloma, but she's still living. She's very much so thriving. She's really doing great, and her kids are adults now. But I found her very quickly. And then the other families, it was much harder to find them. uh, I had a couple families that I would interact with, and then they would say, "Oh, this is too much for me. You know, I don't want to share all this private information," which is completely understandable. And you know, a lot of the time, filming with these families is really complex because there is a sick person involved. So, you know, today's not a good day. He's really not feeling well. Or, you know, we're really swamped. We can't do today, you know, or I don't know how we could schedule this because we're just so busy and like there's so much going on and our life is so unpredictable because of this illness. So it was really hard to organize things and find families who were willing to be in the film. But once we did, things were pretty amazing from there. The families are all super supportive and amazing to work with and very open with their stories. It's beautiful to see their vulnerability. And I think we really enjoyed connecting with each other, and that's what made people feel willing to be in the film. Um, and then, as far as you know, another obstacle we reached was budget. We didn't have any.
Right.
Everything was out of pocket for the first 2 years. And then, as we were wrapping up the film, that's where a lot of the cost comes in. So that's when we started our Kickstarter campaign, and we raised over $50,000, which was amazing. And all of our Kickstarter backers were so supportive, and I'm so grateful to every single one of them because they made this film happen. It wouldn't have been able to be what it is today without those people that donated. So that was super helpful, that Kickstarter. And luckily, I did find, as I said, the only resource I could find for kids who have a sick parent was Wonders and Worries in Austin, Texas. So luckily I found them pretty quickly because they were the only one. So when you Google it, they're the first one that pops up.
Oh,
Uh,
no.
so I found them and I immediately started speaking with Kim Fryer, who works there, and she is so amazing. She immediately was so excited about this idea and this film, and she jumped right on board and wanted to be a part of it and help spread awareness. So I was able to travel to Texas and film at their organization and meet all the families they help and see the amazing work that they do because they're the only organization that does it in the entire country, which is crazy to me. But yeah, so it's been a long process, but it's been very rewarding. And you know, it was a complex process because my father did pass away in the middle of my making this film. So that put a little bit of a roadblock up for us because it just, you know, I personally needed some time. And it also changed how the film was going to be because originally I wanted it to be one thing, but when my dad died, it kind of made it something else. So it was a really long process, but really, really rewarding and very, very healing. Um, and really lovely to find all these people to connect with at Wonders and Worries and all those families across the country.
My condolences for the
Thank
loss
you.
of your dad. I would just like to take a moment of silence for him because I know this film was for him. Um, so, mm. Thank you, Colleen. Grady Kilma, she says she can't wait to see the film. Tina Medla, so proud of you, love you. And Gail Medler said again, all of us suffering with cancer salute you, my darling girl. And Annette says, such an important film, thank you. Yeah, so many messages are out there, but the message that brings families together in difficult times, I think, are some of the most they're rarely seen because I think when a family's going through something, it's like close your door, don't let anyone know you're going through it.
Yeah.
But the fact that you took a step of faith and says, well, I'm going to get out and I'm going to let people hear about this and I'm going to try to get more people. Yes. Beth Ann says, your dad is so proud of you. He is.
Oh.
Oh my God, he is. So let's talk about editing. How long did that take for you? And what were some of the things that were challenging during the editing session to put this together? An
Yeah.
hour and 47 minutes
Yeah.
of beautiful footage, by the way.
Thank you. Um, some editing was complex because, as I said, we were a very low budget film.
Right.
And also I did most of the jobs myself.
Right.
um, for a lot of reasons, but partially because it was such a personal film, that I ended up just feeling very attached to it and just ended up kind of doing all of it. But in the editing process, because we were low budget, we had some audio issues, some color issues because our cameras weren't super fancy. Our audio equipment wasn't super fancy. So we had some obstacles there with fixing those things. But the biggest thing was trying to cut all the footage down. Talking to these families, I talked to 6 families in sit-down interviews in their homes, and then met a bunch more families briefly at Wonders and Worries. So I talked to a lot of people, and I interviewed different employees and volunteers at Wonders and Worries. So there was a lot of footage to go through. Each family sharing on camera their whole story, from diagnosis to present day. So it was a lot of footage. I think my family alone was like 20 hours of footage between the 4 of us. And so it was really hard to pick and choose what's the most important, what really needs to be seen and heard. Because with these stories, every moment, especially to me being so close to it, feels really important. So it's really hard to make those cutting choices, to decide, okay, we don't need this. This can be a bonus feature on the DVD, or we can release this later on as a bonus feature. We don't have to include it now. So it was really hard to make those choices in the editing room for sure. But editing itself didn't actually take that long. I found that once I sat down and was like, okay, I have all the footage I need. I'm finally done with production and I'm in post-production. That moment really felt empowering for me. It felt really like, okay, I've been visualizing and writing what I want this film to be for years, for 4 years at that point, 3 years at that point. So I sat down and I just got to editing, and within a couple months, I had a finished film. And I do think that the coronavirus pandemic helped with that, because there was nowhere to go and no one to see. So I was just kind of trapped in my house, editing at my computer every day, nonstop. And, it did get hard at times with the subject matter being, my own father on the screen, my own family, my own story. Sometimes it was too much and I had to walk away and just take a little bit of a break. But editing it was, again, a really cathartic experience, very healing, to sit down at the end and be like, this is finished. And I feel good about the message that we've gotten out there, and just really excited to get it out there and get people watching it, which is what this coming year is all about. So editing was a little bit more simpler than the whole filming process.
Than the filming, because you had to travel, you had to go to families, and then you had so much footage, and we know what it's like to have all that footage, and you have to then cut down to, like you said, what's important, especially if all these moments are relevant to these families. Vicky Welch said, this is so important to me because I'm chronically ill. And I'm a mother with adult children. I can't wait to see the documentary. Vicky also said, Madison, you've done something very important. Colleen said, this film will touch and heal. It did. I watched it and I teared up. I was just like, I felt like I was in your homes. I was a part of it, and I didn't have to know, but then I did. Because a lot of times we see the St. Jude ads, we see hospital ads with cancer patients, but it's nothing like this, where you're actually seeing families. I remember the little boy and the family with the boy and the older brother and the younger brother. Those were my favorite. I was looking for my favorite family. And this was so emotional about how his mom's, how it affected him, but it was real. And I felt like I was sitting in the living room there and like, oh my God, I wanted to just hug him and say, it's going to be okay. How can we get, it was almost like a therapeutic session.
Yeah.
It's like you were a counselor in their home and they were actually having therapy for the first time since mom or dad was sick. And it was now being, there was healing happening. Like Colleen said, there was healing happening while shooting this film. And I totally want to commend you for that. Because usually when we start a film, we never know the end of why. We want to tell a story, but to have made so many families happy and to bring so much joy, it's just amazing. Kudos to you again for that. So let's go into saying thank yous. So many people made this thing possible. Are there some folks you would love to just give quick shout outs to that are important? Teams that helped to shoot, people you met along the journey, that would be relevant to just when they watch this video, to knowing that you have actually are going out and you're talking to folks, many people about this film. I believe your film's going to win many more awards, this being one of them this year. So shout out time, just as many folks as you'd like to give some shout outs to for helping.
There are so many, because this was such a long process and because it was so personal and because it was just such an emotional process. I feel like there are so many people I can think of to thank, and I'm sure there's some people I'm forgetting, so I'm so sorry if I forget you. But I think first I have to really thank my family for being willing to share this story that is our own. I have to thank my parents especially for being willing to see where they could have done better in helping us to cope with the illness, because as I've said, it's not their fault. Parents don't know how to help their kids. That's the point of this film, is that they need support, they need knowledge, they need help. There's so much on their plate. So I have to really thank my parents for being willing to share this story and put themselves out there. I know that wasn't easy for them. And I, of course, have to thank them also for being super supportive of me. And I really want to thank every single person that donated to the Kickstarter. That not only made me feel so supported and held up in this long process, but it also made it happen. It gave us the financial ability to make it happen, and make it everything that we dreamed it to be. So every single one of those people, thank you so much. And I know they've been waiting extra long because of the coronavirus pandemic to get what they donated for, because we haven't been able to move at the pace we wanted to because of Corona. But I thank them so much for their donations and for their patience. Their support is endlessly helpful, and I'm so grateful to them. And I think I want to thank every single family in the film. They were so open and honest and kind. They invited a stranger into their home to talk with their children and to talk with them and ask them about their own personal experiences with illness. And that's not easy. So I really thank them for being willing to talk to me and talk to my cameras, and let their kids talk to my cameras. I know that what they have to say will make a big impact. So I'm really grateful that they were willing to say it. And then the only other person that I really want to give a huge thank you to is Kim from Wonders and Worries. She was so open and kind to me from the start. And, it's interesting with making this film, it kind of felt like I was talking to myself a lot. Talking to all these kids, I felt like I was looking in a mirror. So it was like a blast from the past in a horrible way and a beautiful way. So with Kim does so much work at Wonders and Worries. She is an incredible child life specialist, and the work she does with these kids is incredible. And not just her, there are so many volunteers there. Each one of them deserves an amazing thank you and a shout out. Crystal Wilkins also, she's in the film also. I interviewed her with Kim, and they both do incredible work with these kids. And I want to thank Kim specifically for saying yes. When I emailed her and said, I'm making this film, will you please be in this? She had no hesitation. She immediately was like, let's talk on the phone. Let's get this scheduled. Let's do this. And I came there to film. I was there for 3 days. She organized me meeting families. She let me film their support groups with kids. She contacted all the parents to make sure they were okay with it. She made it happen. And
Yeah.
so much of this film happened because Kim was willing to work with me.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank her because I did get no's. I got no's from professionals, from therapists who
Yeah.
didn't want to be a part of this. They didn't
Right.
want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So for Kim to so willingly say yes is amazing. And then the last person I would love to thank is Rebecca B. Skolnick, who is in the film. She's a therapist in New York City at Mindwell NYC. And she also was one of the people that said, yes, I want to be a part of this. She grew up in a similar way that I did and all the kids in the film did. She had a mother who was chronically ill. So she could speak from a therapist standpoint, but also from a standpoint of being a child of disease.
Yeah.
So I really want to thank her for being willing to share her personal story and also give her expertise as a therapist.
Nice. Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. Tina says, Dad is so proud, my girl. Annette says, your hard work paid off. And Denise Sutton said, Maddie, congratulations. You're amazing and helping to heal so many people. I'm so impressed. Thank you guys all for your comments. Brooklyn Welch said, so proud of you, Madison. She has a heart there. So thank you all so much for joining us and for joining Madison today in talking about children of disease. It will be available on Chi TV for 1 week only, starting today until next week, Friday. It'll be available on your Amazon Fire Stick, if you have one of those, on the Roku app, and on your Apple TV Plus. If you have any of these devices, you have to look for Chi TV. It will be in the link, it will be updated. And once you find Chi TV Network, it's free. You don't have to subscribe or anything. You will see it as the first film this weekend, and we'll feature it. And please come back and comment on your thoughts on any part of the film that you've watched on the platform for a chance to win $100 from H&H Jewelry Design. We're giving this away just because we really want viewers to take the time to watch these filmmakers' work and come and comment on it honestly, or even ask questions. So Madison, tell us where folks can find you, follow you, your website, and go ahead and continue to support you next.
Yeah, so we have our website, childrenofdisease.com. And you can go there and sign up for our mailing list. I would definitely say everyone should do that if they want to stay up to date on when they can purchase a copy of the film of their own, when we'll be at other festivals and at other events. We will be this coming year doing community screening events, so that'll also keep you up to date on those events if you want to go to an event to see the film in person. And we'll be doing Q&As and things like that at those events, so keep an eye out for that. You can sign up for our mailing list on our website. And then we also have an Instagram and Facebook account that are both Children of Disease. So if you look up Children of Disease on Instagram or Facebook, you'll find us. And those are also linked on our website. So you can find everything from our website. And then me personally, I am Madison VanDerLinde on Facebook and on Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, you can find me there and keep up to date on everything I'm working on. Yeah, so that's mostly the website. Childrenofdisease.com is really where you can stay up to date on this film.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Colleen and Annette, for thanking me. I love what I do here. So one last thing. If you were to speak to someone who's interested in doing film, what would you say to them in terms of telling their story and getting started at such a young age, not even knowing? I mean, coming from almost a place of depression to I'm going to dust myself off and I'm going to do something about what's missing. If it's missing, I'm going to create it, because now your film can continue for a while. You can do it season 2, 3, 4. You can get a major network that picks it up so that these stories are shared and some of these families have more visibility and help and support, especially those that don't mind it. But what would you say to anyone who's in a position like you, who may be going through depression or going through something and is sort of afraid, but may watch this video and say, well, maybe I need to pick myself up and try something different, a different approach to my problem versus just waiting for it to eat me up. And you did so at 18, which is so amazing, which means anyone can do it. So what would be your words to any young person out there who would watch this video and need some encouragement and hope?
Yeah, I would say that, there's always there are always people out there who are going through something similar. No one knows your own personal struggles, but there are always people who can understand what you're going through and can relate. So I would definitely say try to find those people, because finding the people who grew up the way I did, parents who are like my parents who were sick when their kids were young and continue to be sick,
Yeah.
meeting all those people really healed a lot for me and made me feel connected to a community that made me feel less alone, and a community that I didn't know existed. So search for that community. And I would also say find your passion. Find that thing that makes you, excited, makes you feel that fire in your belly. Because I didn't feel motivated to do anything. I was in college and I was doing the bare minimum of college. And when I got this idea, I sat down immediately to start working on it. And I sat down every day after that and worked on it. So that passion just kind of took over. And it was like I was on autopilot because I was like doing this self-discovery. I felt I had to. I just had to keep going, keep going, keep going.
You woke up the dragon. You woke up the dragon. The dragon was
Yes,
alive.
I
The
did.
fire was burning. It was burning. I love it. I love it.
So find that passion, I would say. Passion will lead you through the darkness for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Tina, Denise, Colleen, Annette, everyone, Brooklyn. Thank you for all of those who joined us and those who are going to watch this video. Please share it to our filmmaking community. We'll be uploading the film in a few hours for you guys to watch for this week, and come back and comment and say some kind words to Madison. Madison, thank you. Thank you that you shared in a time where you were down. You took your hurt and you shared it in a beautiful way to the world through filmmaking. I tell people all the time, filmmaking is like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like windows to the soul of you. If you're looking for something deep about stories, you can find it in film. So sometimes people don't binge watch on, Netflix just because there's something behind it that's similar, that feels like I can be that character or I can be that person. And so many people will get healing from watching this film. And we're so excited to have selected it in 2020. And so we congratulate you. We know you're going to do great things and we're going to see great more work from you. Thank you again to everyone who joined us. I'm your host, ChiChi Styles. Thank you again, Madison, for joining us. I can't thank you enough. And shout out to your entire family and to the crew and casts and everyone who helped Madison make this film. God bless you all. You guys have a fantastic weekend and see you guys next week. Bye-bye. Thank you again.